I, I, I do have a lot of fun with this kind of stuff. Um, when you've chosen to serve forever, which is a soul, I mentioned this a couple times before when I had a full phosphorus ignition. Okay, uh, your soul has a connection. Okay, with living energy, consciousness energy, oversoul consciousness energy, right? Powerful consciousness. You can't fool that consciousness. You can't fool another soul. One soul cannot fool another soul because that soul will read whether or not your heart is pure and what it is your soul is experiencing, what your soul integrated with your spirit is experiencing. When you make a decision based of your own free will to be an eternal flame or blast furnace upon which you become an eternal giver of energy, it means that you have the ability to restore the light wherever you are in creation. That is a supernatural ability. Okay? Which means grace, which means it's not about us. Okay? It's about all the others that are not experiencing what we are. Okay? Because we have all the energy we need to experience what love is that goes on forever, gifting you all that energy. That's a source unit. You have made a consciousness, soul consciousness decision to surrender all your soul energy on behalf of service to the all creation. Now you have the most powerful supernatural abilities, and it comes by virtue of the soul making that free will choice to become that, becoming what love is. We are what love is. Okay? It's not a word, it's energy. It's the most powerful energy to be a part of. It is an eternal blessing. It is an eternal gift. So we share that gift with others, everyone, wherever we go. That's the nature of the way that energy works. It means you now have a co-relationship with the most powerful creation energy that created the first universe out of what love is. That's called the ultimate protection. Because creation energy now knows you. That means that who you are, because you've made that free will choice, has chosen to become the most valuable. Because you realize what has the most value. Love does. So when you're choosing to have the most value, which is access to the most energy, because now you're a part of the all creation, which is all the energy that represents what love is, we become what love is, a love, energy, spiritual being. And so that simple is as simple does. And why it becomes so painful from the time I was a little boy to experience so much pain and suffering and so many. Because the level of sensitivity that you have with your antenna, because we live through our heart and our soul, that's our communication platform, is our heart and our soul is a communication. That's why I'm holding my heart. But I was watching a short little blurb by Jason Shirka, who's with Unified, and had a guy wearing a hoodie who talked about supernatural abilities, where he said their abilities were beyond anything that you can possibly imagine as a result of what they've learned how to do with their energy. And so naturally, when I was growing up as a child, in the way that they, I don't want to do a session on this because they map everything, right? They're graphing everything of who's here and all the rest of it with the AI. They get all the data, right? But there's some things that they don't have access to because they're not there yet. It's much in the same way that I've described. The universe does have a way to protect those that have the greatest value, that are the ones that protect it. The real guardians, as I call them, which means real light, which is living light that goes on forever. The eternal life givers. That's the supernatural. So when we think of the natural world like nature, which is why when I was a child, I ran to her. Which means I'm always wanting to be in nature. It's just like I'm inside of a house, but I prefer to be lying on the beach or in the ocean, being with the whales and the dolphins, right? Or in the trees, particularly the redwoods, because they're so magical. Because the energy is alive and living in spirit. Because trees are sentient spiritual beings. So you know that you're connected to everything that is alive and living in spirit. So you're connecting with all of that. So you are part of all of that. So it's like being the fabric of the energy itself upon which creation itself is made manifest into your own mind's energy, which is your soul and the essence of our spirit. So it means that when you have the most sensitive antenna, you're reading all the subtle stuff, all the little stuff. And it becomes a navigation issue because you realize that when you have that sensitive of an antenna, you're reading the entire terrain in the loss and gain of what you are, which is what love is. They're experiencing in them, we experience in us, which is a loss of their voltage on every cellular level. That means that wherever we go, we can read your energy field. And most of the time when I was a child going through that, I put a duct tape over my face because I realized it's easy to expose everything right down to the finest detail. So when he was talking about extraordinarily gifted abilities, it comes natural. And that's what happens when you become natural, when you become a part of what nature is. You are everything that is flowing through nature that is alive and living. When you watch the grass keep growing, that's our energy that's doing that. Okay? You are the energy that grows a universe. That means you have a way to connect and communicate with all of that is communicating back to you through neurons. That's why when I was in Reno, Nevada that morning, I've mentioned this before, I got a communication. It's like a silent communication. A neuron, a big ass neuron, was communicating with my neurons in this to let me know that the light had risen significantly because you're experiencing it. So the experience because the informer. So when you know it, it's called knowing the truth because the light does not lie, which is living light, which is living consciousness, that is a living light with a soul. So you're getting a soul to a soul communication, a neuron, a big ass neuron, a galactic neuron or communicating with our neurons because we're experiencing the rise, which means we're feeling a measurement. You're experiencing the measurement of the rise. You're experiencing the rise. The rise is informing you of the experience, and the experience is informing you of what you just experienced that you made a translation of. You realize that the light had risen throughout the galaxy, and it's immediate. That's called knowing. That's why love is the absence of fear, because love is not afraid to express the truth. We don't share the truth all the time with others. And why is that? Because of the art of communication, because of how much love we carry within us that represents who we are, because we're measuring the train, or what we call the programs that are running through all the others. So you have to be very careful on what we expose because of the potential reaction state. So when you're reading the energy field in someone else, we can read whether or not certain pieces of information can get opened up. Pieces will begin to open up because you're reading whether or not they're able to experience that without feeling threatened or upset, because you're actually reading the level that they're already operating at. That's called a map read on an individual basis. Like when I'm in this house with 4 other people, or when I walk outside, I'm able to experience what I'm experienced by the way that the wind is communicating with me, or the way that the sky is communicating with me, what it is that my antenna is picking up. It's just like an example would be when I was in Reno that morning and I got the communication. There was later on in the day, as I remember it, I had jumped on a bus and I went down to a Target store in Sparks, Nevada, and I got a telepathic communication that said, "Look up." And there was a big ass ship. You could see the vortex, and then it was gone. About 10 minutes later, and I got a picture of it. Telepathic communication. You experience it through your heart. Look up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you know your relatives are here looking out for you. Yep. I'm an Arcturian. Okay, so that's why I cried deep inside my heart. And so anyway, that's your supernatural abilities come by virtue of really what we learn through our teachers, the wisdom, what I call the wisdom keepers. You know, the way I sort of looked at it when I was a child, because it sort of makes it self-evident when they're wanting to push you in all these schools because they want to put into your memory to run these programs. And it's like, listen, I want to go hang out with a goddess, okay? I'd rather be doing that, right? So you already know that you're operating on a different level, because otherwise, if you didn't know any better, you would be saying, sure, go ahead. Put all that stuff into my memory so I can run your stuff instead of running my stuff. You want to be the author of my future journey? Go right ahead. Load my memory up. Now I'll start running those programs. And therefore, I won't know any different anymore, because now I'm running what you're putting in there. Load my RAM. Remember Morpheus? Yeah, we can front load any program you want. So they front load and then they get you on the back end. And you want to know what we call that? Burning the candle at both ends. And there's like 3 people in this house that are burning a candle at both ends. So what happens to that? Remember The Matrix? Who was in that? Keanu Reeves. He played in another movie called, what is it, Wick? John Wick? The wick on a candle. Your candle goes out. There goes your fire. And if you can't reignite that coil, right? Just like a Tesla coil. If you can't reignite that fire that you have within your own soul in order to keep your light bulb lit, what happens? That's what they want to do. They want to put your fire out. That's why I employed put it up on Galactic Talk with Tino, and Peter the Insider with ACIO. Get all the living spirits on the planet out with all the clan mothers, everybody that's here on the planet. Join hands to hands in circles and what have you, and light the fire and celebrate. We celebrate life with love, man, because that's the energy that we run on in living spirit. Right? That's a measurement. That's a measurement of our own learning. Right? The idea with how they operate is to decompress you, keep you down. That's why when a child's been traumatized and doesn't know any better, what have I done? What have I done wrong? The child doesn't know. Why would you hurt me? Particularly young children. Right? I don't know of a worse crime. Okay? And that's why it's funny how some of these words are associated with what we call cyberspace, a cyborg, cyberpunk. When I grew up as a child, we had a specific definition of what a punk is. A punk is a male dominator that goes around and bullies others, okay, in order to devalue others, right? As if I'm a tough guy, right? So I'm going to use my energy to bully you. And now that you're in fear of me because I'm going to beat you up and physically hurt you, now I've got control because wherever I come around, now you're in a state of fear of what I'm going to do to you. So imagine you experience that in elementary school, right? So they use their assets early on children. In other words, if you're a child just there because you're supposed to be there because they tell you that you got to be there, otherwise they send a truant officer out for you, right? And then there's usually, when I grew up, there was usually one or two guys out of that class that were bullies, right? Now, I was fortunate enough that the other guy that I was a friend with, we were the two biggest kids in school. So being androgynous, you can understand how that works when you're bringing that energy in to the classroom, right? That's obviously more powerful energy when you're bringing love in there, right? Sort of balances things out. So they read that energy, right? And so there actually is a difference in time between phasing in and phasing out on how that works between vortexes. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Phasing in, phasing out, phasing in, phasing out. You see that in a lot of their movies. Remember when, what was her name? In one of them with the lady who, The Rise of Skywalker, when she was able to, the stormtroopers, all of a sudden, their mind is thinking one thing of what they're supposed to do that is against them. Next thing you know, she is able to put thought form patterns into their minds and they follow what that is. Because the energy that she's using to do that with is divine energy, if you will, or purified energy or light energy, which is what love energy is, in order to do what it is that love does. So love is the most powerful energy because it's the most powerful magic. So this is like reverse spell. Reversing, reverse flow, forward flow, different vortex. More power, more magical power. The light has the most powerful magic. Love changes everything that we touch. You now put love into that. Now it's experiencing what you are, which is what love is. That's what we do. That's why it's the most powerful magic, which means you have abilities that others don't have to be able to make change, positive changes that others experience through you. So the more positive energy that you're experiencing through you by the things that you do that show how much power that you have in spirit has a positive, powerful, spiritual result. So that's why I was starting to say and share with my clan mother, come on, let's get it going. Let's start accelerating it. Come on, girl. It's not like you don't know how to do this. You're a clan mother. Get the other clan mothers together. Get the other tribal chiefs together. And make this a concerted effort. And I realize how people's lives become so distracted by these phones, these laptops, and everything else they're doing. So it's a matter of priorities. What do you feel is the most important thing that you could contribute to raising the energy in a fallen system? Get it up. I've been trying to do that since I was a little kid. Come on, mama, let's get it up. Let's get it up, baby. Let's go. Come on, girl. This is the way I look at it. She gives us everything for free. I try and be mindful that every time that I eat an avocado, I eat a pineapple, eat a guava, a passion fruit, an orange, a lemon, a lime, whatever it is that comes from this earth. Thank you, mama. Okay? I cry over this stuff because it doesn't cost anything what she gives you, and she gives us everything. Have a great day. I love you all.